So some people have been asking me, what is the difference in, RAM speed, and, how much of a difference does it make? And to give you an honest answer, it all depends on what you're trying to do. Like, if you want to get something, RAM speed will probably not make a huge notable difference, but it will in some certain games that use a lot of RAM. So just to put it in simple comparison with the big, explain it pretty much in like 5 seconds. The higher the RAM speed, you'll probably gain about 10 FPS to 20 FPS in games like, GTA 5, all this kind of stuff. That's the average, and you'll gain in games from 2,666 megahertz to 3,200 megahertz. That's about the difference in frames you'll get from that. So if you have enough money to go through and get that much more speed in your budget, then that's something you could do. And obviously it would, even if you had a really good graphics card and all that stuff, it would still improve it. And that's actually a pretty good spot if you want to improve FPS by that much. Just keep in mind though, it gets to a certain point where the processor speed has to be a certain speed to keep up with it, and if your RAM is faster than the processor speed can keep up with it, then there is no point. There's no point at all, because the processor just can't catch up. So it's like you're kind of not using the full power, because something runs so it's like hey, I'm gonna feed a conveyor belt of just numbers, and the processor can only do it so fast, so it has to slow down the RAM in order to keep up with it, and so it doesn't get overloaded. And that's kind of what it ends up being, is that the RAM just doesn't get used. So you make sure you go through and do your research before you go through and buy it, because I've seen some like 4,000 megahertz, which, don't get me wrong, looks very nice, but you got to keep in mind as well that it might not work, or it might not keep up with it. But I just wanted to explain this because if you're trying to get a couple more FPS in your game, maybe 20 or so, you could probably, switch out with some really fast RAM. I know Intel, I think it's 2066 is the max they go up to, and I forget what Ryzen is, and unless you're overclocking, of course. But just keep that in mind, as if you're looking to get a couple more FPS in some extra places, that would be a pretty easy spot. I mean, it is still a good bit of money to get some nice fast RAM. And also keep in mind, if you had a choice between getting more RAM and getting faster RAM, I personally, since I do YouTube and I'm editing and stuff, that requires a lot of RAM. It doesn't really matter about the speed. I would say get more RAM. But other people would just argue and be like, hey, the faster the RAM for gaming, if you're trying to get a really fast gaming system, then that's what you want to do. Just for like the desktop kind of workbench kind of things, you probably want to just have a lot of RAM over speed. That's what I'd recommend, at least, because at least it will save money. But I hope this video explains some stuff, and I hope it was hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out my channel for other tech related stuff, and of course I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.